Okay, so this is how to be a writer. uh, Pretty similar to how to be an actor that LUCYinLA did. So, you need your support system, and as Sandra Cisneros, who is a famous Hispanic author, he talked about, you got to have a regular job, a day job first, before you can really think to support yourself based off of writing. For myself, I've been writing over the years, since about junior year of high school or so. I've been just writing things down here and there in my off time when whenever in my free moments. In college, while I was going to classes, I was like every other day I was writing this online story with other people. So wherever I could cram it in, and that's over the years, that's why I realized that, really it's a passion of mine to write. So that's like the number two thing, is that it's got to be your passion to write. You really want to write. You really want to express yourself, and in a way, I think that, if you want to become a professional writer, you have to think about your audience. You have to think about, can people read this? Can people understand it? Can people get into it? Does this engage the audience? Does this make people think about, what I'm writing about? Because all the stuff you hear about, all the old literature that they say, oh, you should read this, you should read that. The writing styles are different, and they're kind of hard to understand in some cases. They don't really translate too well to the modern audience, and especially the colloquial way that people speak to each other. What makes them important or special is that, well, they were laying the foundations, they were exploring things and ideas, and they were addressing issues in their community. So that's why you could have writing of all sorts of different styles, different takes, different interpretations. And if you want some examples of modern great writing, in my opinion, there is George R. R. Martin with his Song of Fire and Ice saga, and there's Chuck Palahniuk. I know I say that wrong. The guy who wrote Fight Club. So read Fight Club and A Storm of Swords, I believe it's called, is the first one in that saga. And those two authors will blow you away. It's the amount of detail and the amount of just the way they take the story and the way they show you, the way they interpret the story for you is just amazing. When you, like reading Jarhead, Anthony Swafford did an amazing job of just capturing what it is to be a Marine, and what they experience and feel. And that's what just, really blew me away and really engaged me when I read that book, is that, yeah, I totally understand. I totally agree with what this guy is saying, and I totally understand, what effect everything is having on him. So in my opinion, that's what, makes you a good writer, is that, you can either just blow people's minds by recreating that realistic environment, or by creating a reality that it just wraps you into it so well, that it just sucks you in, and you totally understand and feel it. Or you're so good at basically explaining yourself, your life, to people, or the life you're creating for people. Now, the third thing, which I think is important, is just knowing your audience and being able to, entertain your audience. Because ultimately, really, that's what it is. You can write and your own stuff, but the thing is, if you want to be considered a writer, professional writer, and live off of it and really do it to entertain people, as well as to, enlighten or educate or move people in some way, that's where, knowing your audience comes in. And if you don't know how to engage your audience, do what I'm doing. Get on a forum and just start, writing. Just start doing a bunch of different things. Start acting ways. Start behaving certain ways, and see how people react. A writer, and the other thing is that, don't write about stuff you don't know about. But at the same time, if you're going to write about something you know about, make sure it's interesting. Make sure it's, it's fun. Make that it's entertaining in some way. Now, for myself, I like writing about fantasy worlds where a lot of war takes place. So I've been a soldier, but I've never been a combat soldier. I've, held a sword in my hand, but I've never, really engaged in combat. I did a little fencing at a Renaissance fair thing. The closest I've done is I've, went to karate, and I learned about, how the body moves, and I learned how to position my body, and got the core of understanding of, like, combat. Like, there's attacking, there's feinting, there's grabs, there's acting and reacting, kind of thing. And based off of that initial knowledge, what I then started doing is just paying attention to whenever combat happens, whenever people engage in combat and do something, I look at them and I see how they move and I see how they react. And a lot of it is Hollywood. So you have to really pick apart what is realistic and what is not. So, and that's where just paying attention to things and listening to what people say. Especially if people give advice on something, because if they give advice, that advice more than likely came from somewhere real. Like the person who wrote it, they did do some research, they did have some background. So that's just what you got to know, or that's what it is. You have to know what you're talking about, and so it helps if you experience it. So you can read about it, you can research it, whatever. But if you know about it, write about it, and that helps you write about it. So if you don't know about it, experience it. So your support system. So like I said, I think what really makes you a better writer is if you totally dedicate yourself to it, because then there's a lot of things that you have to keep straight in your head. So what I would do is, or when I was doing it, when I was working and writing, I would just write in episodes. I would have the start and finish, and know where, basically know where it was, and then kind of try to write the story in the middle. Or if I always didn't know, then I would at least have an idea of, like, all right, well, what is this post, what is this chapter going to be about? So that's what I write about. And like I said, there's little episodes. And about 4 pages of email, or four pages in an email that I would send out and, share with people, my friends, family, anybody interested in reading it. And I got positive responses, and then every once in a while people would be like, oh, hey, wait a minute, this is different than this earlier thing. It's like, well, because I'm writing this on the fly, so kind of brag, anyways. But that's, I think that's the way to start, is just start writing little things on on your own. Think about a story, think about a scene, even write about it, and don't quit your day job. Don't try to say, oh, I'm going to abandon everything. Just try doing it, and then try doing that continuously for a year. So if you can write continuously for a year, then maybe that's your calling. But it's got to be entertaining. People must be willing to want to buy it and read it. So keep that in mind.